Hi everybody, Adam here. Welcome back to our Lego room. In today's video, we're going to be running the new Lego City train around the layout. It's Lego set 60470 Explorer train. Always excited to see Lego release new trains, and this one is pretty cool. It is controlled via powered up. So we've got our controller paired up with the locomotive here, so we can run it in a moment. Let's take a closer look at the cars that make up this new Lego train. So first up, we have the Locomotive. Love the fact that they have included snowplow blades out in front here. I think that is a really cool addition to the Locomotive and helps with the theming. And speaking of theming, really love the fact that they've gone in a bit of a different direction here for a Lego City train. We're not doing the standard Lego City passenger train. This is, fully into the city sub-theme, I guess you would call it, of the Arctic explorers. I think that is a really cool untapped area for them to explore. And, a good sort of starting point for that is the idea of snow blades out in front, clearing the tracks. The blades there have stickers on them. Not too many stickers across the set, but, not disappointed. I think those snow plows work really well and are great additions here. Only thing that's a little odd in my mind, they stick out a little far at the front here. I feel like this area that you can see is a little odd. Doesn't bother me too much, just something that I kind of note in looking at it. But looking at the rest of the Locomotive, really like what they've done here. I think the color scheme, really cool. Love the orange, blue, and white. I think it all works really well together. Makes the Locomotive very eye-catching. You can see we've got a printed part on the side here with the logo, and then printed fan parts on the top here. Really nice additions to this set, and in particular, I can see these being, parts that people might use in their own train designs as well. So really happy with what they've sort of chosen to go with here. And I think that this is an excellent Locomotive and an excellent start to this particular Explorer train. Now we're moving along a little bit down the train here to I guess you'd kind of call it a passenger car. It's a bit of a workshop or a space where minifigures could be eating or, watching stuff, doing work as the train is moving along. Love the fact that the train came with more magnetic couplers. These work really well. It's a nice addition to the train here. Makes these the attachment and detachment of the cars work really well. So happy to have that. And I think this is a really cool idea for a car. I've, got sort of in the back of my head, I'd really like to put together an aquarium car at some point for a train that I work on. And, this gives a little bit of that vibe. Obviously not an actual aquarium, but I love the fact that most of this car is see-through, quote unquote glass. Lets you see into the interior there, lets you see what the minifigures are working on. And you can see if we detach the car here so that we can turn it around a little bit, you can see inside there's a couple of screens on the computer, and those are 2 more stickers that you can place on the parts there. 6 stickers in total, I believe, for the set. And, happy that they've included what they have as stickers, but the stickers are a relatively small part of the the overall set here. I love the fact that we've got a lot of printed parts. You know, these sort of warning tiles here. Nice that those are printed. It's nice to have, like I said, the fans on top here, the big side logo. You know, they really included printed parts for a lot of the key things and the things that I think people are probably most likely to sort of use for other purposes outside of this set. So really happy with that. And I think, you know, like I said, this is a fun car to include in here. Works really well. And, you know, I'm just a big fan in general of cars that you can see into in that way. Like I said, like an aquarium car, gives a little bit of the vibe of an observation car. So, you know, really happy with this one. And you can see down on the side as well, we've got some storage doors that can be opened up if you want to place items inside there as well. Now, the last car for the train, it is a basically 3 car train, locomotive and 2 actual train cars, which is about the length I would expect for a train in a set like this. This last car, though, does a number of different jobs. You can see on the very end here, we've got some sort of a gun, basically, that can be manned by one of the minifigures. I'll show you guys the minifigures afterwards, but it can be manned by a minifigure, and I assume for defending the train from bad guys or maybe wild animals. Hard to say, but a nice addition there. Makes sense to have that on the end of the train here. Moving backwards, you can see in the middle part of the train car here, we've got an awesome tread snow vehicle. I think this is a nice addition. It's the first thing that you build when opening up the set, and works well as something that the train would pull along and haul from one location to another, but also fits in very well with the Arctic Explorer sort of theme, and is something that you could play with or use in dioramas and displays independently of the train if you wanted to. So really appreciate that. And a couple of great printed parts. We've got the logo again on the front of the treaded vehicle, and we've got a nice map on the back with the cat face on there, which I think is really cool. So really nice touch with the vehicle there that the train is hauling along. And then last but not least, on this front part of the car, we've got a couple of storage containers with the parts on the top here that could be used by a crane to, load them onto the train car, or, to unload them from the train car. It is worth noting, one, there are tools in here that come with the set, which I think is a nice touch to have those in there. So they are serving a functional purpose. The other thing that's worth noting about this train car is it's made up of 2 halves here. This gray piece that forms the overall sort of shape of the car, it ends about right here, and then there's a second one that carries on for the back half of that train car. Nice to have those parts. I think they would be great, they work well in this set, but they're also good starting points if you're looking to create your own train cars. So nice touch for this set, and also something that could be very useful outside this set when you're working on your own train cars. So overall, a great looking train. And like I said, I really appreciate the fact that they've gone in a different direction with the train this time. It's not just a standard passenger train or freight yard train. This is something, completely different, works well for the theme, and definitely leads to some interesting props and various other builds that you can work on that support this particular train. So before we look at the rest of the set and the minifigures and talk about what else comes with the train, let's actually put this through its paces around the layout, and then we can take a look at some of those other items. So you can see trains moving around the layout. Like I said, it is powered up that it's using for moving the train. I know people have a lot of different feelings about the powered up system. I'm definitely a big power functions fan, but powered up generally does what I need it to do for a lot of these models, and I think it's, definitely very functional for this particular train. It's nice to see how quickly and smoothly the train is moving around the layout. Really like the fact that they included the battery box, the train motor, and the remote with the train set. That's not always the case, and I think that's really a necessity. I think it's kind of it's unfortunate, I think, if you sell a train like this without the parts that you need to actually motorize it and sort of get that full play experience. Parts need to get the full play experience. So really appreciate the fact that they included all of those things in the set. I realize it probably makes it, more expensive, but I think it's a really key part. It's a nice train, but I think that trains really call out for being motorized and run around a layout. So including the motorization parts, including the track in the set, those are musts in my opinion. So nice to see that they did that. Oh, what happened? Let's see here. Well, we're back running around. I'm not entirely sure why it jumped off the tracks there. There's a little bit of a gap in that part of the layout there, but it's pretty tiny, and the tracks are actually pretty continuous through there. So I would not expect it to have made much of a difference. Interesting. Yeah, seems to go through just fine. I can fiddle with that a little bit and make sure that that gap goes away for the most part. I'm at the moment taking bits of track apart and putting them back together again as I work on getting all of the underlay tiling set up for the corner modules on the lower layout and the new T-junctions that we are adding to the lower layout. So lots of stuff is coming together, going apart, coming together. Bound to be a few loose little areas in the layout, but like I said, I think it's pretty minimal, that spot that it seemed to get caught up on. We'll just have to keep an eye. It might be that those snow plows on the front of the locomotive, it's just if you happen to hit something just a little off, that those could cause it to derail. But it's working pretty well for the most part. That one derailment there, it's made quite a few laps before that and quite a few laps after now. So that's just something we'll have to keep an eye on. That is always the, sort of the risk when you add low elements like that to a train. But like I said, we'll just keep an eye on that and see if it is actually a repeatable thing or if it was just kind of a weird one-off that can happen every now and then on rare occasions. Because like I said, it's moving pretty smoothly. I'm quite happy with how it's performing. And, you know, while not necessarily a train that we're going to be running all the time around the layout, like I said, it's nice to see them pushing the types of train sets they release in some different directions. And I'm sure this is going to be something that appeals to a lot of people. And, you know, I could see having this train running periodically down in our Winter Village portion of the layout. It could fit in quite well there. The clearance between that and the Union Pacific there is not a lot, but it's working okay. So, you know, overall, like I said, I'm really happy with how this is running. I love the fact that they included the powered up motor, battery box, controller, all in the set. And, you know, pretty easy to get everything wired up inside the locomotive there. And always great to be able to see trains running. You know, that's, like I said, I think releasing a train without a motor in the set, I know it's something they did in the past, but never feels like a great way to release a product. So happy they included everything in the box here. Now let's take a quick look at some of the other things that come with this particular train set. So taking a look at the minifigures, and this is not the entirety of the minifigure lineup. They've done some really cool things here. Love the torso prints and love the facial prints that we've got here on these characters as well. Leads to some really nice minifigures, not only for the set, but I think some really cool parts to be used elsewhere as well. I think the hat here that we've got on this guy with the flaps on the side, really awesome, well done. Love the insulated drink cup that he is holding as well. Love the toque and hair that this guy has here. It's a great part, the melding of the toque and the hair there. Works really well. Great for this figure, but could definitely see utilizing that on other characters that we have in our collection. And, you know, just love the look of the, you know, our explorer friend here. Great mustache, great scarf, an awesome torso print with the jacket there, the great hat. So really happy with these characters. And what I did in putting this set together, I've actually only built and focused on the train itself. There are a number of other bags of parts here that are used for assembling a couple of other main features of the set. You can see here that the other two sort of structures or play areas that you can build. We've got a bit of a station, an Arctic Explorer station, where you can crane supplies on and off of the train. And then we've got a little bit of landscape here with some boulders that are actually can fall down on the train via an interesting track mechanism, which we can show more in a second here. But those are the two chunks that you can build in addition to what we've seen so far with the train. I have not built these because I think that I can use these parts for some other interesting builds around our city. And, you know, while they're cool, they're not something that I am going to, you know, utilize or specifically build off of for work that we're doing around the layout. So I'd personally rather just use those in other areas. And in particular, we've got quite a few excellent parts in here. Always a big fan of the mountain pieces. I'm hopefully in the near future, going to be building a mountain on one corner of the layout, and looking forward to utilizing some of these pieces in addition to some other parts that we have in our collection. So great to get more of these to help with facilitating the build of that mountain range and the tunnel that will be within it. So happy to get those. Other parts that really stuck out for me, I love this fence piece that they have included in here. I think that's got some really cool potential, so looking forward to using that. Other things of note, the set comes with lots of standard Lego curve track, a little bit of straight track, which is always infinitely more useful for someone like myself. I don't really utilize the standard Lego curves that much anymore, since we have Tricks Bricks and Brick Tracks curved track in our collection. That is what primarily gets used around the layout. So this typically goes in a bin. I think we're going to try to do some interesting builds in the upcoming months to utilize some of this and clear a bit of it out of our backlog. But, you know, nice to see that they've included the track here, and nice to see that it's not all just the standard Lego curve track, that we've got some straight track as well. The other two track pieces of note, we've got this cool piece, which is for the front of the lab or station area where the train can pull up. Neat to see what they've done there. And then the other part, which is probably the most exciting out of the two, is this piece of track here, which goes inside this mountain range landscape element here, and which it looks like is responsible for the triggering of the avalanche of boulders down onto the track. So you can see in the instructions here how there's the part that attaches into the gap here on this piece. And then I believe what happens is the train runs over that, which causes this to get pushed up, which deflects that up here and causes the Lego pieces up there to get tilted so that the boulders come raining down onto the track. Really cool idea. Not something that like I said, these are cool elements. These are not something that I'm going to use in the long term around the layout, but I think that we can utilize the parts here and some of the ideas and come up with a something that's another sort of step up and is a cooler, more integrated addition to our layout. And with that, maybe we can still make use of some of those elements to add a little bit of fun and extra spice to the Mills module. So we'll see what we can do. But for now, like I said, I built the initial characters that come with the train cars, and we're going to be parting out the rest of these parts here for use in and around our layout, whether it be the mountain range or something else. But really happy with the addition of these parts. There's a lot of cool stuff in here that I think we'll be able to make use of. And especially happy to get these mountain pieces here as well. So, lots of great stuff here. I can definitely see there being some really cool elements that, kids would enjoy building and playing. Love the fact that they've got all the different track here. I think having straight track as well as curved track really does add a lot for kids who are playing this and setting up some interesting track to run the train on. So, great to see all that track work in there, in addition to all the powered up functional elements that have been included in the set. So really happy with this aspect of it, but let's go back and finish off by taking a look at the train on the layout again. So overall, really happy with the Explorer train. I think it's a great addition to the Lego train lineup. Not going to be for everybody, not a super authentic, lifelike train, but I think an interesting direction for them to go with the Lego train sets. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who really enjoy this set and get some interesting inspiration from it, as it's really sort of tapping into a different style of train that we haven't seen in the Lego lineup before. Now, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please make sure to do so that you don't miss out on any of our upcoming videos. And thank you very much for watching. We will see you again soon. Take care. Bye.